What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you my first place ABC profile. Now this deck went to locals, did incredibly well with it, got all the way to first place, ended up facing two Voiceless Voice, Chimera Illusion and Sky Striker as well, and the deck outperformed everything I could possibly imagine. I'm going to show you the main deck, the extra deck and the side deck so you can see exactly what I played. I'm going to give you as much depth and detail about the play style of it and everything else you need to know. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. This build also contains the Horus engine as a disclaimer, but don't switch away. I will also tell you different alternatives for it and what it was being used for in this deck. So if you feel you could complement it with something else, then by all means you can take it out and adapt it. Because trust me, this deck is still incredibly powerful. So we're going to dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got. So for the A, B and C piece of the deck, we are playing 2 of each. This is perfect. The times that I might want to consider having B at 3, but I wouldn't consider putting A or C up to any more. I like having 2 of each because it gives me the ability to make a second Buster Dragon should I need to, or should my opponent interrupt my pieces. Now, one of the biggest weaknesses of this deck is, of course, Draw and Lockbird, and there's a couple of changes I'm going to be making into the deck when you do face it, how you can kind of play around with it, and that's where the Horus engine does come into play because it can actually help you play through something like that, because as long as you open up King Sark, you can then just start sending your pieces, get them to the graveyard as you need it, and then still complete your play of a Buster Dragon and then have Horus monsters on the board, or of course add in some XYZs. The one brick of the deck is the Union Driver. Now the reason the Horus engine works so well with this guy is because with the field spell, you can put Union Driver back to the bottom of the deck and then you're able to still use your plays. Even if you do have Union Driver in the hand, it's not the end of the world, because what the Horus monsters then provide you with is an additional body on the board that could then be linked off with one of your A, B or C pieces, so it's not the end of the combo, and it can also send the Union Driver to the graveyard as free discard fodder. Then for the rest of the ABC kind of pieces, we've got triple Union Hanger, pretty straightforward and simple on that one, and 2 unauthorized reactivation. I really rate this card in this deck. I feel that if you're cutting it, it's very crazy to do so, because what it does is it gives you that ability. Yes, the monster that you equipped it with can't be special summoned for that entire turn, but ultimately you're going to be equipping it with Union Driver, or if you do equip it with an A, B or C piece, which I did in the Chimera Illusion build, is I actually, in that one I got drolled, and what I did was I normal summoned down B, and equipped it with A core so that it couldn't be destroyed by card effect. And that was because they put the Dark Barrier statue on the board. I was like, okay, well, normal summon B, I'll activate the unauthorization, equipped it with A, and then what that gave me the ability for is I knew they had the Chimera Fusion, which was going to get them into Guardian Chimera to try and pop 2 cards. So what it did was it gave me that ability that if they tried to pop B, I could replace it with A. Obviously, A made B unaffected by monster effects, so what it would end up doing is popping A and popping the field spell. It would then still allow me to trigger A, which allowed me to add back any Union that was in the graveyard off the back of Foolish Burial. And then as soon as I got rid of the monster on the board, I was able to go into my Therion plays and protect everything else I needed to. Speaking of which, the next core component of the deck is the Therion engine. Now, Regulus is like £3 a copy. I'm highly considering picking up a second playset just to have a second playset, but this card is absolutely nuts, alongside the one Therion Disc Colosseum. I don't think you need any more than one Therion Disc Colosseum because you get to it when you want it. Plus, you've also got to remember with the Horus package, you actually have the option to get into Sagas, which can get you to the Regulus anyway. So you're getting double the amount of times to get to exactly what you need to in order to give you everything you need. Regulus is so important because what is so good about it with the ABC is that when it equips the ABC monster from the graveyard, you can still summon that ABC piece, which is really important because you then get that monster on the board for free. And in one of my matchups against the Voiceless Voice, what I was able to do was activate the field spell, search me out a piece, activate Regulus, Foolish Burial a piece, activate Regulus, get the piece back from the graveyard equipped, unequipped it, trigger the effect of the field spell, get another piece, or go into Union Driver. Union Driver gets me the other piece summons. So straight away, without even conducting my normal summon, I've ended up with an Omni Negate and 2 monsters on the board that can make me a rank 4, a link 2, whatever I needed it to be, which can then ultimately lead me to the ABC Dragon Buster, and that just helps you push for OTKs. Then, of course, onto the expensive engine being the Horus engine. Now, with this one, of course, we've got triple Imseti, the 1 Blessing and the 1 Guidance, followed up by 2 King Sark and 1 Walls of the Imperial Tomb. Now, 1 Walls is enough in my opinion. I think it worked out perfectly fine. I felt this ratio of Horus monsters worked out absolutely fine as well. And the reason this works so well with the ABC pieces is as long as you're continuing to link them off the board, they keep getting their resource management. So B searches out a piece, A adds one back from the graveyard, and then what you're doing is you're getting your discard fodder for the King Sark, so you can just discard them to get you your other pieces to the grave, and then you've got the ability to either bring these to the board to swing for an OTK, or you're using them to go into XYZ monsters that are going to help you protect your board. Remember, Buster Dragon is also luckily a level 8, so if you needed to and you didn't have a discard for this one, is you can make 2 rank 8s, but you'd only do that in a scenario where the additional rank 8 would actually be more beneficial for you in order to kind of get you the win. So these put in a lot of work, but what can you do if you don't have the budget to be playing this? We can go one of 2 ways. You can go for a more focused budget engine of the Horus cards, because considering the most expensive card is Imseti, you could cut these 3 out and play a 3rd King Sark plus protection, and then you've got 1 more free space to play around with. Now, that's not going to be as consistent as you might want it to be, because Imseti is actually quite an important card for the piece, and it adds the consistency to it, because Imseti can send a piece from the hand to the graveyard to search out the King Sark. So what can you then put in the additional 8 spaces? Well, that's 8 more hand traps, 8 more board breakers. Heck, any of your side deck cards can come into the main, and it just gives you that option there. One other card that really does help this deck out is something like Revolution Synchron. And again, this is also another expensive addition to the deck, because currently these are sitting at about £20 a copy. If it makes you feel any better, I did not see these at all the entire duel, and I never needed them. There were times where it was like, it would be really cool if I could then make a Ancient Fairy Dragon, gain a bit of life points, and then get my new field spell. But more times than not, I was getting drolled. But even then, I never saw it, so it never came up. Again, if you wanted to take these out, that's another 3 spots that then become hand traps. They can then be more focused on the Fearon engine if you wanted to go down that route. You could go for more level 4 extenders, and what I would consider would be stuff like the Sakitama and Aritama, because straight away you can go both of those into the Spriggans to then rank up into a Sargus to then search you out your Fearon. So you're just giving your more consistency to your Fearon engine rather than your Horus engine, and then you fill the rest of it with additional hand traps. And as you'll see as we go through this deck was built to be more aggressive and to play through multiple forms of interruption rather than trying to trade 1 for 1 in forms of interruption, because I was playing a very small hand trap lineup and tried to tailor it to be, okay, I will constantly keep playing through your 1 or 2 negates to build up my board. And then what you had the benefit of, bar something like a Draw and Lockbird, is you were like, okay, cool, they've stopped my ABC build. I'm now going to go for the Fearon option. They stopped the Fearon option. Okay, I've now got the Horus option. And then you had all of these different options that were just power cards on their own that allowed you to build up and get everything you need to. Speaking of power cards, Triple Cash Fenri, like, it's a free body on the board. And what I always do now, especially with Droll running around, is you special summon down Fenrir, then you make your first search, and if you don't get Drolled, you then use Fenrir to search out another piece or another copy of itself, and that then becomes discard fodder should you need it. Fenrir is incredibly important. I know it's expensive right now. I think eBay has them at about £30 a piece. I feel that on the trade group, it's like £15 a copy if you wanted to buy them, so that's not so bad. But I feel a lot of people are considering it's either going to get hit on the ban list or it's going to get reprinted in Rarity Collection 2. And if that does happen, then these are definitely a 100% pickup. I hope they do become in Rarity Collection 2 so that everyone can get them, because I think it's just such a great generic card. It's unreal. Speaking of other generic cards, Triple Forbidden Droplet, this actually puts in so much work in this build. There was actually, in the Voiceless Voice matchup, they went into the Dynamo, and then I activated Droplet during draw phase as I had turn player priority, sent a monster which can send a piece, which obviously helps you out, and then that negated the Dynamondo and then it couldn't do anything. But it's also so good in the Voiceless Voice matchup, less so in the Striker matchup, but it could put in a bit of work if you needed to, but I would side these out for more effective cards in the side deck, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But the idea is when you're playing a card like this and sending pieces is just going to gain you so much advantage, it's absolutely unreal. It just really puts in a lot of work, especially when you're ending your board on stuff like a Buster Dragon with IP into SP or Underworld Goddess, which I did more times than not, believe it. Maybe a Fenrir sometimes, maybe the Fear on King Regulus. Like, you're just basically protecting yourself from the Beerus, Omni Negates, and everything else. The other generic cards we're playing is 1 Call by the Grave, 1 Foolish Burial. Terraforming, highly considering taking this out. I did have set rotation ready to go, but I forgot to swap it in before the duel started. Because the way I looked at it is I was like, if I activate Terraforming and get drolled, that's pretty much my turn over, because all 3 of my field spells search. Whereas if I activate set rotation, not only do I stop my opponent playing a card, but it also gives them a card on the board so they can't imperm me. I don't need to worry about evening in the like the return fixture, the second duel, because that's probably when Evenly's going to come in. So I highly wanted to consider putting set rotation in form of Terraforming, but there were times where this just worked out so well. Like I'd already opened up a Union Hanger, cool, search me out my Disc Coliseum. Disc Coliseum would be the bait out. The only issue is when you're activating Terraforming and you don't search Union Hanger in this deck and they know what you're playing, more times than not, they're like, they've already got Union Hanger. So it's not really a big surprise. But there were a couple of times where going for like game one, my opponent didn't know what I was playing. I was activate Terraforming. It'd probably be more likely resolved. And they're like, oh, they're playing Furion. This is weird. And then you go Furion add, and then you go Union Hanger. And they're like, right, I get you now. So I would highly consider set rotation over Terraforming. And the reason for that is if you've already opened up options to your King Sark, you can give them the Walls of the Imperial Tomb. If you've already opened up a Union Hanger, you can activate your Union Hanger and then give them Union Hanger and you get your Furion Disc Coliseum. So I felt that this was probably a little bit more effective in some scenarios, which is why I'm highly considering this would be one of the first swaps I'd want to make for the deck, just because this one doesn't help me lose to Droll as well, which is really important. And then for the hand traps and then anti-hand traps, triple imperm and double talents. Imperm is just that best hand trap for going first or second. Talents was when there was a lot of hand trap, a lot of monster effects going around, activate talents. The 2 times that I saw this and the 2 times I've activated it was against a Sky Striker player, and both times when I revealed their hand. The first time was Afterburners, Raigeki, Mind Control and Talents. The second time I activated it was Afterburners and Mind Control. I was like, bro, what do you want me to do? So it's still really, really good. Great for going second. Kind of good for going first, because if they droll you, what I was doing is I was getting knowledge of the hand and taking away a card that was going to be effective to them. And more times than not, when I did get drolled, I was already summoning down a Fenri, or I still had the ability of an Extender plus ABC or the Horus plays. So it kind of gave you the balance of everything you needed to, and then I got the knowledge. Obviously, you can't draw for this, and if I'm going first under droll, they don't have a monster. So looking at the hand was really invaluable, and then that just gave me the knowledge I needed to know what to play around, what to shuffle back, and everything else, which is kind of cool. So that's it for the entire main deck. Should be a flat 40, unless I've miscounted at some point, but it should be definitely a 40, unless I forgot to side something in or out. I'll show you the extra deck first, and I'll show you the side deck. So for the extra deck, pretty standard on this one too, Buster Dragons. I don't think more needs to be said about it. Buster Dragon just is what it is, puts the work in. The discard to banish, a lot of people forget that it's target a face-up card, or target one card, sorry, on the field. So dealing with back row, front row is very damaging. And what I actually found a lot of the time is I would have this on the board with an IP Masquerena. And what that would do is it would bait out one of my opponent's forms of targeted effects. So in the Sky Striker matchup, they made Zeke. Use Zeke, obviously if it targeted the Buster, I would tag it out, but they targeted the IP. And I was like, okay, cool. So we'll go Chain Link 1 would be Zeke, Chain Link 2 would be IP, Chain Link 3 would be Buster. So what you do is you tag the Buster out, you get your A, B, and C piece back, and then you would use IP plus A, B, C, and their monster, and you would go into, skip ahead as a little bit of a preview, the Underworld Goddess. So not only did I dodge the banish effect, but then as the chain's resolved, I've then used their monster as a link fodder as well, and then on the new chain, I get to trigger A, B, and C effect if I've got the ability to resolve all of them. But more times than not, they're in the graveyard set up for a second Buster Dragon to come back the next turn. You've got an Underworld Goddess already, so straight away that's 6k that's going to be hitting your opponent, not to mention a discard to banish as well. So really did like that type of play, it worked out really well. 2 cards that I never used in the entire deck was Ancient Fairy and Crystal Wing. Obviously the idea is that off of Rev, you would synchro Rev with one A, B or C piece, get into Ancient Fairy. Whether you use Ancient Fairies to destroy the field spells, then gain 1,000 and get another one or not is, whether you've got access to it. But then you get the additional normal summon to summon down an A, B or C. You can't conduct the battle phase the turn you do that. And then you would obviously use Rev Dragon in the graveyard to mill one additional card, summon itself back, and then you would go into a Crystal Wing. So never use them, but obviously if you're playing the Rev engine, that's what you're going to go into. For the XYZs, I've got one Baguska. This was just one of the ones where if I went with a piece and then I was able to get the unauthorization activation to go into play and make a rank 4 because my opponent had drolled me or stopped me, I had the Baguska to fall back on. Never went into it, never needed it, but it was there as a safety net. This could very easily be a floodgate monster in the form of Abyss Dweller, or it can be another Link 2. For the rank 8, purely for the Horus engine, we had the Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, the Gigantic Champion Sargus, the Ding, and then of course the Hope Harbinger. Never made any of these. I think, actually no, I might have made Hope Harbinger. No, I made Sargus once because my opponent stopped me getting to my field spell through Disc Coliseum. So I activated Disc Coliseum, they stopped that. I went, okay, I'll just go Sargus and get it anyway because I felt I needed the Omni negate rather than just the spell negate. I never needed the monster negate because I got to Fear and King Regulus first, and then the ding was in here for destruction protection or the non-target send, which never really came up. So that's why I'm saying the Horus engine is flexible. It's just more of an aggressive out. So if you're happier taking that aggression out to swap it for a 1-for-1 trade with certain hand traps, stuff like Veilers, Ashes, Bells, Mourners, you name it, then you're kind of okay to open up these slots, and they can very easily be super poly as well, and your super poly targets. Cross Sheep, not as good as I thought it'd be. So there's a lot of times where I needed to make a generic Link 2, and obviously you'd want to go for something like IP Masquerena, or you'd want to go for the Platinum gadget. But I didn't want to go to IP Masquerena. First of all, I always went to Cross Sheep, and I was like, cool, I want to leave the slots open. I'll be able to make ABC. I'll be able to revive one for the graveyard. But then I kind of miscalculated a little bit, and I put myself in a position where if I made ABC, I still had a piece locked in my hand, or if I made ABC, there was no monsters left in the graveyard to bring back. So Cross Sheep is good in the right scenario, but I do feel that this is a flex spot that can be changed up. IP is just insanely good. Like I said, I probably went IP into Underworld Goddess more times. I think I didn't go into SP once. I actually made SP the hard way during my turn, and then left the IP on the board so that I could do that whole Buster Dragon banish, and then IP goes into Underworld Goddess. Platinum Gadget, summoned it once, got Mourned. GG. But again, this is really kind of cool because it's one of the ones that if you have that piece in the hand you want to extend to, rather than going Cross Sheep, you go Platinum Gadget. The only issue is you need the A and the B to make it, or the A, B, or C to make it, to then summon the other piece. Really, really good. Works out insanely well. You got to remember it can't be used as link material the turn it is summoned. So it puts in work, but I didn't feel that I was like massively relying on it. And then the one Appaloosa as well. So the Appaloosa, it gives you the Omni Negate to help you protect. I only went into this once, and I only went into it because, again, you try to get to your Sagas first, and your opponent stops you getting to it. And then what I do is, so my opponent stopped it, and I was like, oh, maybe he's got a Nibiru in the hand. So I then used my Fenri, a piece, and an IP during my turn to go into an Appaloosa. And that just gave me the ability to set up the Negate for Nibiru. Only they didn't have the Nibiru, but you want that safety net if you need to. Very rarely was I ending my turn on this because I was happy with the one Omni Negate in the form of the Sagas, but there was a couple of times where I ended up going second anyway. So it wasn't always going first with this build, which is really quite nice. And it wasn't until the later games I was like, you know what, if I'm not going first, why do I want the Rev Engine? So I decided the Rev Engine out. Moving on to the side deck, obviously triple Nibiru, never put it in, but obviously the idea is if your opponent's going to combo ham, you can hit them with a Nibiru. More times than not, like I said, I ended up facing 2 Voiceless, 1 Sky Striker, and a Chimera Illusion. So the only time this was effective in any of the matchups is the Chimera Illusion matchup. Triple Droll, I think a lot of people are putting this in the side now rather than the main in certain scenarios, definitely at the local environment. So it kind of gave me the ability to play ABC and not worry about game 1 as much. And I felt that with the aggressive build that I put together, I was happier with the balance of, it doesn't matter if I win the dice roll going first or second, the deck has the balance to do either. And then when I go into my side deck, I want to then adapt it to be as effective for whatever turn I think I'm going to get. Double Bestials, so 1 Magnamute, 1 Druid Swarm. Obviously massive in the Voiceless Voice matchup, massive in the Sky Striker matchup as well to deal with Rays. And the Chimera Illusion, okay, but I never put them in the Chimera Illusion build. I only did it against Voiceless Voice and the Sky Strikers. I think I did this, I had this in the hand for the Sky Striker matchup, but they never got to Ray. I was like, okay. In the first Voiceless Voice matchup, I was able to Druid Swarm away their Saphira before they could use it as ritual fodder or use its effect to ritual, and that pretty much ended the turn there. I went with 2 Dino Wrestler Prankatops, never put it in, but just one of them ones where if my opponent was threatening with Floodgates or anything else, I could special summon down Prankatops, and then I could do a trade 1-for-1 for it, deal with a Floodgate, try and out some sort of monster. Obviously not so great in the Voiceless Voice matchup, but even then, in the Voiceless Voice matchup, what you're doing is you're trading this as a 1-for-1, because you summon it down, and then you'd use its effect to try and deal with one of the back row, or you would summon it down, and it's still a strong monster to deal with certain matchups. Like in the Chimera Illusion one, they were playing the Nadir Servant into Winder play. So this would be great in that one because you just summon down Prankatops, kill the Winder, and then go from there. And then for the spells, I went with double Cosmic Cyclone, double Lightning Storm, and then the 1 Harpies Feather Duster. Pretty straightforward and simple on that lineup. Cosmic Cyclone is obviously really good in the Voiceless Voice matchup, just to kind of help you deal with those back rows early door, because then they're trading, you're paying 1,000 life points on 1 card, and they're going, okay, well, I'll have to negate that if I need to, otherwise their monsters can be targeted. Lightning Storms obviously blows out the back row, and then Harpy's Feather Duster can also help you blow out the back row. Never saw these, but they're in there for a reason. They do put the work in as you need it. And that is it for the entire main deck, extra deck, and side deck. So I put this together because I was like, I wanted to play something a little bit fun. I really wanted to play Horus cards myself, and I was like, stun is boring as. I really wanted to play ABC for the longest time, and I was like, I really want them to work with Horus. And everything I was looking at online, they were like, okay, well, we want to be playing the Synchron version. I was like, I get it, it's good, but it could be better. And I was like, the Horus engine, really fun. I enjoy the Horus engine. Obviously, it's not so fun now that it's all kind of tied with the stun version of the deck, or the stun in general. So I was like, I want to use Horus to help me utilize my ABs and C pieces, provide me with rank 8 protection. And it worked out really, really well. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, you can sub out the Horus engine if you want to. If you have the Horus engine and you're like, I'm a little bit bored, I want to try something new, then I highly do advise putting this together. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I think at the base minimum you want ABC Firion, and then you upgrade to ABC, maybe Synchron, like ABC Revolution. But if you can get to the Horus, and fingers crossed they're going to be confirmed in the Megatins as reprints and not going to be left out this year, then Horus will be a lot easier for everyone to get, and then it could be even more accessible to be able to build a deck like this. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.